Hi, welcome to Tamika's Thoughts. I want to share with you a story. I'm speaking to all the parents. As parents, we know and learn our children and what they are capable of doing and who they are. Um, it's important that we pay attention to our kids and know when there's a problem. Not all the time your child is going to come out and say there's a problem, but if you are a parent who is in tune, I know it's hard with today with parents working and constantly in a shuffle throughout the day. You need to pay attention to your children and have make that time out, that time slot for you to have a personal relationship and a conversation with your child. I say all that to say children tend to be some children. I was a particular, this is my speaking for myself. I was always a protector, even as a child. I would protect my mother who was in an abusive relationship. I would protect strangers if I felt like they were being, bullied or whatever, what have you, or in trouble. I try my best to go out my way to assist. I say that to say that it's bringing me to this story I'm getting ready to share with you. I was 8 years old, the same age my daughter is today. I protected a man who did a bad thing, and I'm getting ready to share that bad thing with you. Um, Subscribe to the channel if you have not, because I have many stories, and each story gets more deeper than the last. I'm just here to tell you, I'm pulling it out slow, but it's very deep when I give it to you. Myself, my cousin, and my brother. I was 8, my brother was 9, my cousin is 9, so she's a female, but her and my brother were closer in age. And they were closer in being hanging out together. My cousin was what we considered to be a tomboy at that time. And I was always a girly girl, if you will. I wanted to play rope and play with dolls and do things of that nature and be under my mother for the most part. But this particular evening, we had spent the night at my cousin's house with her and her mother. And um, my mother had went out and we were laying in the bed. The apartment was set up, and my aunt had a huge apartment. We were in the master bedroom, which sat at one end of the apartment. On As you come down the hall, there's a second bedroom before you hit that master bedroom, and in that second bedroom it had the bathroom, and it had a walk-in closet, and back at the opposite end of the master bedroom was this huge living room, and that's where my aunt was. And behind that living room was a huge kitchen. But my aunt had fell asleep on the couch in the living room. And in order to get into the apartment, you have to come through the living room. But in the second bedroom, um, there's a window that leads from the fire steps to lead up into for an escape. If you have to go, you know, the fire rail steps like they have in New York, um, it was set up like that, and from that second bedroom. So as we're laying there, and my brother is laying in one side of the bed, and my cousin is laying on the opposite side of the bed, and I'm in the middle. But as soon as you come into the bedroom, bam, come to the left side, there's the bed. where we're sleeping. They're asleep. My brother's sleeping and my cousin is asleep, but I'm laying there. I'm not quite asleep. I'm just laying there. And I hear something coming from the second bedroom, but I knew it wasn't my aunt. So I laid there and I listened. I laid there listening to what that something was. And as I'm listening, I hear a little shuffling going on, like a little shuffling, and then it stopped. And then I hear the footsteps coming down the hall to the room where we're laying and sleeping. And he stopped. And I knew that that was not my aunt. Although I had my eyes closed, I knew my aunt wasn't standing there in the doorway. And I could feel his presence. I could feel him sit on the side of the bed next to my cousin. And he reached over my cousin to me and where I was laying and proceeded to inappropriately touch me. So I laid there stiff. I didn't move because I did not want to, I was scared. I was scared to move. So I just laid there like as if he wasn't. I just wanted, wish that it was over, would he finish, what he was doing, fondling, and moved my underwear to the side and literally actually fondling. So I hear my aunt get up and start moving around. I could hear her in a far distance. And he pulls his hands back and jumps up and stands up against the wall, and he's peeking down the hall to see if he sees her. So he slips out the room. And not sooner than several minutes later, my aunt comes. I hear her footsteps walking heavy, and I hear her clicking something, which was her gun. And she comes in, she flicked the lights on, and she said, "Someone's in here." And I jump up, I sit up, and I say, "Yes." And my brother and my cousin then jumps up, sits up, and they're like trying to figure out what's going on. So my aunt says, "Stay here," and she proceeds back down the hall. And she goes into the middle bedroom. And I hear her moving around in the middle bedroom trying to find find this person. And then she goes out the middle bedroom and she comes back to the bedroom and she says, "Did he touch you?" To me. And I said, "No." And she's looking and she's holding the gun and she's looking and she's listening. Then she walks. She said, "Stay here." She told all of us to stay in the bedroom. She walks back down the hall. I hear her call 911 and she's on the phone with the police. And she said, "Someone broke into my house. I need the police here." So they, she before she ended the call, she gave the address. So, excuse me. So she called the police, and not moments later, you heard boom, 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 and it was the police. They come and she opens the door, and they said, "You can put the gun down." They told my aunt because she came to the door with the gun. So they said, "You can put the gun down." And they stepped in. And they said, "What's the problem?" She said, "Someone broke into my house." My aunt was very, very aggressive, very, very stern. And she was very direct with her approach. And she said, "Someone broke in my house and he's in here." So they said, "Okay, we're going to check it out." So they, sure enough, they go down to the master bedroom and they check. He's not in there. And they check in the middle bedroom, and they checked, went back into the kitchen. She said, "No, he's not in here. He's back there." So they said, "Okay, we checked back there." So they went back, but they went back and they checked again. She said, "No, in this middle room," because they was heading towards the front room. So they go back into, and they're standing there, and they looked in the bathroom, they looked underneath the bed, they looked everywhere, the light is on, and they shined in the closet, and my aunt said, no, you gotta go in that closet. So the cop was like peeking, and she pushed the officer in the closet, closed the door, and next thing you hear is tussling. They tussling. And he said, I got him. I got him. And the white officer is standing outside the door with his gun pulled, and he's waiting to open that door. He pulls the door open, and the black officer has the black guy in cuffs that he was struggling with inside the closet. So my aunt began yelling, I told y'all he was in here. I told y'all he was in here. So they said, okay, ma'am, we got him. He going to, the officer was disheveled, and the other officers fixing his hat at that time. The officers had the hat with their badge, like it looked like a badge in the front of the hat. So this was like in the 70s. So, the officer took the man, and they let him out of the apartment. Now I'm looking at this man. My young eyes is looking up at this man, and I don't see nobody that I can remember. So they take the man out, and my aunt was huffing and puffing, and she was pacing back and forth. And she turned and she said, did he touch you? And I said, no. In my heart and in my little mind, I knew that my aunt, I said no the first time, and I continued to say no. And till this day, my aunt do not know that he touched me. This is the first I am actually sharing that. I never let it, because I knew that something bad, very bad, was going to happen to that man. And I was trying to protect that man from something very bad happening to him. And I was thinking to myself, why she keep asking me and not her daughter if he touched her? She keep asking me. Why she keep asking me? Or she's not asking my brother that he, touch him. In my head, I'm thinking this, but in question of why. Why keep questioning me? Like she knew. It's as if she knew that he did. So we went back to bed after a couple hours, hour or so, which felt like hours because of the sheer uproar which occurred, and now we're up. But she sent us back to bed, and I'm laying there and I'm listening when my mother comes in, as she's talking to my mother, and she said, "Yeah, you know that it was Gary who broke in here." And my mom was like, are you serious? It was like she was in shock. But my mother at that time worked as a bartender, so she knew a lot of people, and also my aunt knew a lot of people, because back then our family was like a part of um, uh, a huge Islam community. Okay, back then in the 70s, it was like a uniform in the community. Like we went to community meetings. We It was like a community base. Like we it was as if the we had breakfast in the community, we had lunch in the community. It was like a really communified environment. And it was also a fearful, because people knew who my family was, and they were like, you know, apprehensive to start any problems, because they knew that it would be a big deal or whatever. The cops was constantly running up in the house, in the home. At that time, as a child, I didn't know what was going on, but my uncle and my aunt and my mother were a part, just like back in the day. It was at the time with the Black Panthers and the Islam community come together. They came together to try to change the community and help the inner children with breakfast, lunch, dinner, and stuff like that. So with that, you know, my mother and my aunt and the family knew a lot of people in the community. However, I did not recognize this person, but they said his name and they were having a conversation. And my mother asked, "Did you speak to Tamika? Did he do anything to her?" And my aunt said, she said no. And I'm thinking, well, why is they asking particularly about me and not my cousin and my brother? Why me? So, you know, as I'm listening, laying there, listening, ear hustling, if you will, with this call today, ear hustling, um, I heard them go into a little bit more detail about this guy. And my mother was like, I think he came in here for her. And my aunt said, I do too. And they all agreed on it. They both agreed on that he came in for me. And my aunt was like, I kept asking her if he did anything, and she's saying no, but I don't know. And so my mom said, well, I'll ask her. So, and they said, and so my aunt, because my mom was saying to my aunt, he came to the he came to where she was, and he left when he asked, where are the kids, how are the kids, who has the kids? And my mom, just in casual conversation, informed him that we were with my aunt, and he knew where my aunt lived. And she said he left shortly after, but she didn't pay it any mind. And that is what struck her to believe that he came for me, because I later found out he had a fixation on me for some reason. And my mother was always like leery of him being around me. So, you know, when he broke into my aunt's home, that is why my aunt was so adamant on asking me and repeatedly and relentlessly asking me, did he do something to you? Because they had already was aware of the fixation he had on me. As a child, I was always, they would call me grandma. The older adults would call me grandma. And they said, oh, Mildred, she's a grandma. She's so ahead of her time. I was always like, I didn't even play with the kids, because I would hang under my mother, under the adults, and listen to their conversations. And I was more at ease and at peace with the adults than with the kids, because the kids would not want to play with me. They like, I was the voice of reason, and they didn't want to hear. And they like, go ahead with that. They wanted to push me to the side. They wanted to punch me in my face. They wanted to do things to me that would cause me pain and grief. And although, you know, I complained, this is coming from family members. This is cousins and friends of family members who's friends with the family, so it was like their kids did not want to play with me. So I stayed under my mother. And I would I would I would try to protect my mother, and as she was in and out of a abusive relationship with her significant other, which caused the whole family to jump and beat the living breaks out of this man in the home, and I'll get into that. attack. There's so many more stories that I'm giving to you, but I'm giving to you a topic at a time. So this particular topic is listen to and be in tune with your children, because not all the kids are all the same. And this is what can cause a problem. If a parent doesn't know their child, each child, and how they are, they're going to treat each child the same. And you got a child that, okay, you can treat your child the same, but you have to know what this child would do versus this child wouldn't do. Or, you know what I mean? So once you get to know your children, you know their personality, you know what their likes are, their dislikes are, what their how their persona is, and you know that plays a intricate part in their upbringing and their personality. Okay, so I say that to say that that was the beginning of the first secret I've kept, and throughout the years I've learned to keep many more, and I will share those other secrets with you. I wrote a book. I wrote several books. But however, The Silent Cries of a Barbie Doll, I give a little bit of a tidbit of some domestic violence relationships that I've encountered and been in. But there's a lot more that I have not shared that I would like to share during story time, because I feel like I can give you a little bit more than what I have given or will give um, up until this point, have given in a book, in the form of a book. Um, the seek and I like to say, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do and hit the like button if you are interested in hearing more. And also, to put a note on that, a young another young a young brother in this sense, by the name of the Dante Show. You need to check out. He gives a little bit of his experience in being incarcerated, and the type of people who have entered into the prison system, and the predatory behaviors that they have, and the predatory acts that they have done to people on the outside and children, that has led them into the place that they end up being in, which is prison. The man who actually did that to me, this man ended up, I hate to say it, but he ended up being taken out. Okay, I don't know who took him out, but he ended up being let go from jail, and they found him 2 weeks later in an alley, gunned down and dumped in a trash can. And I don't know what was the reason or exactly who and how, but that's how that man's life ended. So be aware of what you're doing before you do it. Be aware of who you bring around your children before you bring them. Children should be off limits. When you meet, I know a lot of young ladies they're going out and they're dating. And when you're dating, you fall quickly in love and you're head over heels. And the first thing you want to do is bring them into your family. I say that should be the last thing that you do. You need to know who this person is. You need to do your own background check on the person before you even introduce them to your children. Not just be spitting by this person or be this person who fondled me. The family was well aware of this person and he was known in the community, so I don't even know who else he touched. But I knew that I needed to protect this man, and I tried to with a lie. Okay? So your children may not say, or they may, for whatever reason, maybe it's fear, maybe it's concern, whatever reason. But if something like that was to happen, you need to know your children and know what and who and how they would respond to certain things. And just don't allow anybody around your children. That was something that my mother didn't really tolerate, no matter the abuse that she took from on her end. She didn't tolerate anyone to be around her children other than my father. She didn't allow anyone to discipline us other than her or my father. Um, and I think that in that sense, and then my mother and father were not together all of my life, but there was an understanding that no one was to discipline the, ch- the children but the parents. So I do understand that, and I did receive that as a child. I knew that. So I kind of was aware of that. And being aware of that, I um I acted on it, as if you will, because in many cases I've jumped into my mother's altercation with her significant other, and as a child, and got in his face, "You're not going to put your hands on my mother." I would stand on the edge of the couch because I was so small. And I would stand on my tippy toes and get in this man's face and tell him what he wasn't going to do. And this man never put his hands on me. Not once. He could have easily just slung his hand and I would have went flying off the couch, off the tip of the edge of the couch or the sofa or whatever it was I was standing on. Easily slung me across any room. But he didn't, because he already knew that he couldn't. And no matter how many times he ran up on my mother, he surely did not run up on me and my brother. So, you know, or my sister. I have an older sister, but my older sister was outside the home at the time. However, that's a topic for a different story. But I have, like I said, I have many more stories to share, and one is deeper than the other. So if you are being blessed by my stories and by what I'm giving you, I say that you bless someone else with with your presence, with your story, with what you have to give. Whatever that something is, you bless someone else with it. And I say, hit that like button, subscribe, and go check out my brother, not by the same mother or father, but my brother by the same stripes we bear and the stories we share. Dante, the Dante Show. This brother is phenomenal. He gives you the truth and he give it to you raw dog and uncut. Okay? So check him out. The Dante Show, and check me out. Come back and see me so I can see you. Be a blessing. God bless. And I intend on blessing you with some more stories. So have a great day. Thank you for tuning in.
Mommy, are you done?